We may as well start. 36-30, Manly kicked off round 16, beating the Storm, who scored 4 tries in 4 minutes to sort of, I guess, flatter themselves, I'd say, more than anything.
Absolutely.
The stats, Barney, and yeah, we'll get back to it.
Yeah, we had 7 tries to 6, 3 out of 7 conversions for Manly, 3 out of 6 for the Storm, 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for Manly. 75% completion, played 84%. That was 30 out of 40 sets, played 33 out of 39. 6 line breaks for both teams, 42 tackle busts to Manly, 40 to Melbourne, 9 offloads to 7, 4 forced dropouts by Manly, and a 40-20. 239 tackles, played 301. 1 ruck infringement from both teams, 1 inside the 10 against Manly. 8 penalties conceded to 6, 14 errors to 8. Crocker made 25 tackles, Grant made 38, Cooler with 195 running metres, and Nelson Asofa Solomona with 171. Crocker missed 6 tackles, made 25. Davey missed 5 and made 23. Nikorima missed 7 and made 16. And Meaney missed 5 and made 8.
I think, sorry.
Pappenhausen with 135 Supercoach points, DCE with 118, and Canacoola with 100.
I think this game really showed, and I've sort of flagged it before, but this Melbourne production line is now a little bit empty. I think we've reached the bottom of it. They no longer have the depth they had once you start getting into the second and third stringers in this team. And when they lose a handful of other forwards next year, I'd be concerned about, yes, any team with Munster, Grant, and Hughes is going to be okay, but I'd be concerned about where they're headed in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Not necessarily going to fall off a cliff, but I don't think they're going to be the powerhouse they've been for the last decade.
You're going to see a lot more games like this when you haven't seen them for years.
100%. But outside backs were mediocre for a lot of this. Nikorima, probably we won't see again in first grade again for another few years. He had a night to forget. He had not much in attack and, less than nothing in defence. Put an early claim for a pot plant there. Ford's got owned a bit. I thought that Melbourne's best was the Cheese, pretty much. He was about the only one trying for a lot of this. And Nelson was good, and Pappenhausen faffed about for about 70 minutes and then looked good for the last 10. Manly were good. Their outside backs were great. Harper and Cooler had a bit of a field day picking on some of the new Melbourne backs. They looked very good. Foran just playing really good footy, not afraid to run into the line, take someone with him, and then and offload. And DCE was largely dinner suitish, but I thought was good as well. And you get from Olakau'atu and Jake, they were fantastic as they have been all year. I thought it was, I thought it was pretty good for Manly. I thought I can't fault anyone in a team, which we have been able to lately. Garrick, as I've said before, would look at home in a 1 jersey in a few other clubs. But your thoughts, Ollie?
Yeah, Garrick's definitely comes to light. As a fullback this year, of course, he's played there a bit before, but ever since Tommy's sort of been out for the year and it's been confirmed, he sort of tried to make that jersey his own, albeit he will not be wearing that jersey to start the season next year. But for me, the standouts, at least for Manly, were the centres, and I'd say Jake Trbojevic just continuing his return to form, I guess you could say, in a weird way, because as Barney's brought up before, his defence has remained solid. He's always been a great defender, once again making 50 tackles, but he's running meters a backup now as well. He's getting more active in attack, and that, to me, was one of the key contributing factors to Melbourne's forward pack getting owned a little bit in this one, which I wouldn't have expected, to be honest, even with the form of Olakau'atu and Trbojevic, and they were definitely the two leaders in that forward pack who were able to give Manly that edge. I don't know what to make of Melbourne anymore in a weird way, because, and I guess it's still comes back to the lay of the land of the competition, if you will, because it's like, well, they could still win the comp, but like they're just, I've never seen Melbourne sort of this mid area before. I guess you could say mid's probably the way to describe it, as in they've not really hit the heights of the last few years. And I know last year during the regular season was their most dominant patch ever, I guess you could say, with the winning run that they went on. But I don't know. They're still up there. They're still a top 4 side. Arguably, will end up still top 2, but there's just something different. They're not horrible by any stretch of the imagination. They still got all those players there, but I don't know. They just seem like a bit of a. I don't want to.
The aura is declining.
I don't want to call them a wild card or something, because they are a team who on their day can still absolutely flog teams. They still have that in them, but it's just not as consistent. So I don't really know what to make out of Melbourne too much anymore. And come finals time, it'll be really interesting to see, because at a stretch they could go out in straight sets, or they could make the grand final. Like it's really strange.
It's a funny thing to me. If they make the grand final, I'd be very scared of them. But then then I don't want to back them to make it right now. But we've only just got Pappenhausen back. We haven't yet seen Munster and Hughes on the field together a lot. And Harry's been either injured or through Origin for about a month. Their forward pack's a concern to me more than anything. But if they do get to a grand final and have all 17 fit, then they're a scary, scary team. But mid's an interesting term for them. Barney, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I flagged at the start of the year that I was concerned with their forward pack and their depth, and especially their running meters through the middle. And I don't think there's been many games this year where they've been dominant through the middle of the field. Generally, it's sort of been papered over a bit with Pappenhausen's running amok and Hughes and Munster, carving teams up through the middle. But I'm yet to see a really strong, dominant performance out of their forwards. Like Kamikamica really had no impact in this game. There's a few others, Chris Lewis and a couple of the second rowers that didn't really have any impact at all. As you mentioned, Cheese and Naz, Nelson were probably the only two that did have that impact in the middle of the field. And they took Cheese off for about half an hour, which I think sort of killed him a little bit there too, because he was buzzing around in his 100th game. I probably would have left him out there for the 80, to be honest, because he was up and about. But Manly started fantastic. They matched the Storm early in that first probably 10 minutes or so when the Storm did seem up for the game. But then for the next hour, they just pretty much ran all over Melbourne. They were bettering the Storm for a good 60 minutes in this game, in all aspects on the field, especially through the middle of the field. And I can't remember any games this year where Manly's had more than one forward run over 100 metres, and I think they had 3 or 4 in this game, which is obviously a massive difference. Marty Tapau, I think, is one that you didn't mention. I thought he had a terrific game. He was fantastic, ball in the hand. Yeah, absolutely. And their outside backs got in and did some of that hard work through the guts as well. Like your Saabs, Harper, Kula, and Tolopolutu, they all ripped in and took those early carries coming out of their back end, which helped their forwards out as well. The defense was extremely strong as well. Like Melbourne didn't look like scoring realistically for the 50, 60 minutes of this game. Obviously, it fell apart alarmingly in the last sort of 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the game. But I think they just sort of, they took Jake off and they just went, we've won this one, and kicked it back down into first gear, and then Pappenhausen put it up into fifth gear and tore them apart through the middle of the field. But excuse me. Yeah, Melbourne just seemed to, because once they got that first try from Meany, it was a pretty easy try out in that edge there. And then they just seemed, I don't know, it seems like they just expect things to happen. Like, because it's, it's been happening for 5 or 10 years. They just get into their work and they win and they do it easy. But Manly weren't having any of it. They were really big through the middle of the field. And it's the most dominant performance I think I've seen out of the forwards for Manly this year. Pappy struggled really badly for that first hour of the game too. Like, he was dropping balls left, right and centre. He was throwing passes in behind people, throwing them over the sideline.
Yeah, 2 or 3, early on, absolutely.
I was quite concerned on how he was going to go, but yeah, it obviously clicked into that last 10 minutes or so. Tapau and Naz were probably the best ball runners of the day. You could chuck Cheese in there as well. And Jake did a bit of work there too, but it surprised me how easily the Manly's outside backs turned this defensive line inside out. Like, there was so many times where they got caught on the outside edges or caught through the centres. And I think you mentioned Foran, it had a lot to do with Foran going into the line and attracting defenders, which obviously gives a bit more space outside there for them to do their work. I thought DCE's kicking game was fantastic. Cheese's reintroduction when he came back in and stole that ball off Marty for the try, and then those buzzing around trying to put shots on and do some different things was a big uplift, and part of the reason that they sort of got back into the back end of the game. They almost come back and stole it, but yeah, they're probably really not in too much trouble there. Olam, one who didn't mention, was really good for the Storm. And who else haven't been mentioned? That's probably it. Everyone else has been mentioned. The back five, Olakau'atu and Tapau were the best of the forwards. DCE 3 points, Pappenhausen with 2, and Olakau'atu with 1 for me.
I didn't, to be honest, didn't think of giving Pappenhausen any points. Olakau'atu, I would say Olakau'atu 2.
Yeah,
and then if you're going to say Pappenhausen or Cooler or Cheese.
Oh, we'll leave Pappy out.
But I'm not objective.
We'll go
I just
Cheese or
of
Cooler.
Oliver?
Ollie, Cheese or Cooler?
Lovely little bit of camembert cheese, if you will.
Cheese. Nice.
All right, we'll give it to Cheese. Cheese 1.
Yep, DCE 3, Olakau'atu 2.
DCE 3.